Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the incredible story of Malaysia. We're going to explore how centuries of global trade, intense colonial rule, and some seriously rapid economic shifts forged this modern nation. It's an absolutely fascinating transformation, taking us from ancient sea routes right up to today's bustling global markets.
Early traders didn't just see a landmass when they arrived. They saw an absolute paradise. They literally called the Malay archipelago the land of gold and the land of spices. We're talking about an area of such incredible abundance that it acted like a magnet, drawing merchants, monks, and eventually heavily armed invaders from all across the globe, all eager to claim a piece of that immense wealth.
So, here's the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll follow a really fascinating historical arc. We'll start with the crossroads of global empires, then move into the birth of Malaysia, followed by its economic transformation. After that, we'll unpack its multi-ethnic tapestry, and finally, wrap up by looking at navigating modern challenges.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Crossroads of Global Empires, the Geographic Crucible.
To really understand modern Malaysia, we have to look at its foundation as a massive trading hub. This goes all the way back to early Hindu kingdoms like Srivijaya and the rise of the Islamic Malacca Sultanate around 1400. And man, that incredible wealth sparked a dizzying turnover of empires, all desperate to control this highly strategic waterway. The Portuguese invaded in 1511, drawn by the lucrative spice trade. Then the Dutch stepped in around 1641. By 1786, the British arrived in Penang, vastly expanding their colonial grip over the next century. Each successive wave essentially tore apart ancient systems, establishing centuries of colonial dominance over the entire region.
But then in 1941, everything changed. A massive structural upheaval hit. Actually, it was astonishingly fast. In just 70 days, a brutal Japanese occupation completely shattered the long-held myth of Western invincibility. It was a deeply dark and traumatic era, for sure. Yet, interestingly, it acted as a catalyst. It sparked a profound regional nationalism, turning racially and regionally divided peoples who lived in totally distinct, separate Malay states into a much more united, self-conscious populace. They suddenly realized they needed to control their own destiny.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, the birth of Malaysia, from colonialism to independence.
Now, you might think independence was a single overnight event, but it was really more of a sprint. Following a British push for a unified Malayan Union in 1946, local leaders like Tunku Abdul Rahman really seized the momentum. They forced the timetable, effectively securing Malayan independence by 1957 and then forming the larger Federation of Malaysia by 1963. This rapid evolution was a total, absolute rejection of those sluggish British colonial plans.
This massive merger of Malaya, Singapore, North Borneo, which we now know as Sabah, and Sarawak was dubbed the 1963 Grand Design. And the why here is crucial. In a deeply turbulent, highly dangerous post-war Southeast Asia, combining these distinct territories was basically a necessary survival strategy. It was all about ensuring administrative efficiency, driving economic development, and, critically, maintaining defense viability. Now, while Singapore did eventually separate, this massive merger laid the foundational borders for the nation we see today.
Let's move on to Section 3, an economic transformation, from raw materials to manufacturing. Picture this. Back in 1970, Malaysia was locked in what's called a dual economy. That meant a whopping 88% of its exports were just primary, unrefined commodities. We're talking rubber, tin, and palm oil. Now contrast that with today. We're looking at a modern, heavily industrialized upper-middle-income nation. It's a vibrant manufacturing and tech hub driven by massive transnational corporations and innovative local firms. Honestly, the leap from a colonial-era raw material exporter to a modern industrial giant is nothing short of extraordinary. So, how did they pull that off? Well, this massive shift was largely driven by the 1970 New Economic Policy, or the NEP. This was born out of the tragic 1969 racial riots and some severe, deeply entrenched wealth gaps. The NEP was incredibly ambitious. It set out to completely restructure societal wealth by aggressively reducing poverty and eliminating that old colonial-era setup where your race dictated your economic function. It also aimed to dramatically increase indigenous Bumiputrera equity. The overarching goal? To fundamentally stabilize the nation so it could actually grow.
And to put the success of that pivot into perspective, just look at this number. By 2010, manufacturing alone contributed a staggering 21.3% to Malaysia's GDP.
They didn't just export raw materials anymore, they started processing them into finished electronics and machinery. This specific pivot toward manufacturing became the ultimate catalyst, driving huge foreign exchange earnings and really fueling national development.
Okay, let's turn to Section 4, the multi-ethnic tapestry, demographics and politics.
Today, as you can probably guess, Malaysia is a deeply pluralistic society. It's predominantly made up of Malay, Chinese, and Indian populations, alongside other indigenous groups. This vibrant diversity didn't just happen by chance. It's a direct legacy of the late 19th century. That's when British colonizers imported vast numbers of laborers to work the tin mines and rubber estates, permanently weaving together this deeply varied, complex cultural fabric.
And this colonial-era segregation directly shaped how Malaysia survives politically today. Because the society was historically so divided, the political system absolutely relies on coalition building. With a majority Malay Bumiputera population, the party UMNO negotiated a special position within the system. But to maintain representation and national harmony, distinct Chinese and Indian communities were integrated through minority parties like the MCA. It's a continuous, delicate negotiation within a federal constitutional monarchy, constantly working to balance those diverse communal interests.
Now, to truly understand Malaysia, we have to unpack the term Bumiputra. It literally translates to sons of the soil. This refers to the ethnic Malays and other indigenous groups of Southeast Asia who receive specific affirmative action representations under the law. Understanding this is absolutely crucial because balancing these Bumiputra rights with the diverse interests of the wider population has been the defining challenge of Malaysian politics and its economic policy right up to the present day.
Which leads us to our final chapter, Section 5, Navigating Modern Challenges, Triumphs and Costs.
Today, Malaysia faces the ultimate double-edged sword of rapid modernization. On one hand, you have spectacular developmental triumphs. We're talking a world-class healthcare system and a booming cosmopolitan tourism industry in places like Kuala Lumpur and pristine eco-islands. But this progress is starkly juxtaposed against severe ecological costs. The major issues here are massive deforestation, dangerous soil erosion, and some truly significant biodiversity loss.
Let's look at a shining example of their success first, the healthcare system. Ranked among the best and most affordable globally, it provides incredibly equitable access across both rural and urban divides. It really is a stunning post-colonial triumph. And what's fascinating is how it's now successfully pivoting from historical health challenges to battling modern lifestyle diseases.
But progress definitely has a heavy price. 800,000 acres. That is the staggering amount of land logged annually in Malaysia. While this practice heavily drives economic growth and provides a vital agricultural space, the fallout is severe. It results in devastating flooding, dangerous peatland drainage, and an annual regional haze that literally impacts millions of lives across Southeast Asia.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we're left to ponder a really big question. How does a nation forged by competing global empires and rapid industrialization survive the 21st century? Malaysia's journey from a heavily colonized crucible to an independent economic powerhouse is undeniably inspiring. But looking ahead, the ultimate test will be how it balances its rich multi-ethnic heritage and booming economic momentum with the absolute urgent need for environmental sustainability. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.